First, we start off with the energy sector to the rescue, helping the Dow avoid its longest losing streak in 40 years. One could say it was the type of dramatic save one only sees on an episode of Baywatch. Check out some of these moves in the past 3 months. Exxon up 11%, ConocoPhillips up 20%, Marathon Oil up 36%, and finally, Chesapeake Energy up 63%. So what better time to play a rousing game of trade it or fade it? Energy style. We all know the rules of the game, right? Trade it or fade it.
Can you just go over them quickly? It's Friday. It's been...
Guy, Chesapeake.
Well, Melissa, hi on this Friday. You're going to say the stock's up 63%. How can you possibly trade this stock still? That's a great question. I will say you trade CHK, and one of the reasons why is valuation still isn't ridiculous, although that's not in and of itself a reason to buy the stock. But there is still a significant short interest of 22%, and I don't think they've come close to covering yet. I think the OPEC news is bullish, as you saw today with the stock up 3.5%, and I think there's still room. People will chase, and I think they'll chase this closer to $6.50 than they will sell it below $5. So I say, despite the move, trade CHK.
Which means buy it.
That's
yes.
No, see,
I'm just clarifying. I'm just clarifying.
I did it correctly from the start, and then
you're not the only one involved here. There's a viewer at home.
So why didn't you give me the rules at the beginning like I asked for? You wouldn't have had to do that at the top.
What would you do with Chesapeake?
I think for a short-term trade, I'd be a buyer of Chesapeake. For short-term, again, I agree with Guy. I think the short interest is the qualifier there for me. This move will last a little bit longer in energy, not for a very long time, but I do believe the shorts are going to continue to push this thing higher. I'd be a buyer.
It's overbought, actually, on an RSI relative strength index,
so
which it's been. I would fade it. I would fade. I would fade Chesapeake. Yeah. It's overbought. Last time it was overbought, it came in pretty dramatically for a $4 number or a $5 number. So you have to be very careful. It had a big day today on a relative basis. I would stay away. I would fade it.
See, now, I don't know, but I would say I would trade his fade, but I really what I'm trying to say is I would buy.
That's confusing.
Right, exactly. The whole thing's confusing because trading is both buying and selling, believe it or not. You know, when you have a trade, there's a buyer and a seller. Point is, I would buy Chesapeake.
You would buy? Okay, all right.
Buy with a B.
So maybe the game should be buy it or deny it. Buy it or deny it.
No, the graphics are made for trade it or fade it, so that's what we're going to stick with.
My pushback to Steve quickly would be, and Steve knows this, and I'm not suggesting he's wrong, but RSIs, you know, if the stock flatlines for the next couple of weeks, RSIs come back to normal levels, and then the stock could go from there. So
yes, and to counter your counter
the counter.
All stocks react differently with a relative strength index or RSI. This one, Chesapeake in question, actually responds pretty dramatic to an overbought and an oversold. Thank you.
You know what that is quickly? Can we? That's a trade school. Can we throw that graphic up? That's Stevens. Trade school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Nice
A lot
job,
of things happening on this Friday. Grosso gets his own pick here. Marathon Oil, Grosso, trade it or fade it?
Well, I'm going to be consistent here. I'm going to go with fade it because it's still in the energy complex. The reason why energy moved today was OPEC. That was the overarching macro news of the day. Everyone was expecting 1 million new barrels per day to enter production. We got something like 600,000. The big difference was that was bullish or seen as bullish for the entire market. I think it's a sell. I think energy is a sell.
Fades once again. What do you do?
I trade it because you got a great setup here. $22 looks like it could break out. You don't need to buy it ahead of that. You can wait for that breakout. See if oil continues its run here. So I'm a trader of this or a buyer of it.
Well, I would say I'm a buyer as well. Again, for the short term, I think rising tide's going to lift all boats in this sector. I don't care whether it's the garbage energy stock or the most high quality.
It was up 7% today, though. Don't you think you should let it breathe?
You know, you can let it breathe, but I do think I wouldn't let it breathe right now. I think there's more upside in the near term in this sector.
I'm with Steve on fade it. See, I'm playing the game correctly, not buy it. I said, if you want to change the game, buy it or deny it.
Still
Apparently, we can't do that.
Buy it or deny it.
But by my metrics, so this stock valuation is expensive, and it doesn't have it has like a 2% short interest. So not a lot of shorts in here. They're going to give you the next impetus to get it to that 25 level. So I'm with Steve on this one.
Plus, before we get all excited, if you look at energy as a whole, Guy and I like to play this game with the XLE. 5-year performance is basically dead money. So granted, you have these moves that are month to month, but on the whole, energy has really done nothing for 5 years.
Because those are integrated.
Yes.
Which brings us
a lot of integrated names.
Which brings us to our next one.
Nice job.
ConocoPhillips. Brian Kelly.
That's an integrated. It's good to know. So I'm a buyer of this one. I'm a buyer. I'm not going to be a denier. And the reason why, again,
denier.
yes, it is. There's a buyer to deny it.
Right,
so BK's a buyer. I'm trading it. And the reason why, again, it comes down to, I think all of these names have this great risk-reward setup right now. $65 on ConocoPhillips. I know where my stop is. That's it right there. And then I can shoot for the upside as long as oil keeps going higher.
Can I inject a question into this?
You run the show. I mean,
I know, I could do whatever I want. What levels do we need to see oil hold on to in order for these traded or faded scenarios to work?
Well, it's interesting. Crude's actually come off over the last couple weeks, and these stocks have done relatively well. So if crude, again, were to sort of go sideways, even if it was just slightly lower, I think you could still see performance in the energy sector.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also goes back to the demand picture right now, because I think that's the biggest risk in the entire market. So I would suggest that the worst case scenario would be for it to go through to $75, right, which would scare the heck out of people from the standpoint of the expense for gasoline and et cetera. So I think we're in a pretty good zone right now. I think you can have crude continue to grind a little bit higher, and I think you're a winner. But you just asked on his call, I'm a buyer of that. I agree with you, BK, because you want to own Brent levered names, right? Anything levered there, because the spread between WTI and Brent is probably going to continue to widen. I'd own this name.
So you just brought up the best question of the night so far, is where crude goes. Because if you look at...
I've already invited you over to the desk.
Oh, that's right. I'm still here. I'm here. If you look at everything is reliant, it depends on to what degree, on the crude move. The crude move is at the upper end of the bounce or the sell zone right now. It should be a sell right here at 69.30, which is right where we are.
All right. Last pick here, ExxonMobil, David Seaberg, traded or faded?
I'm a fader. I'm a seller, fader, whatever you want to say. I mean, look, there's no growth in this company until 2020, zero growth. So you look at it and say the stock probably just meanders. It probably will. If you say rising tide lifts all boats, grind higher if oil continues to grind higher, but it's going to underperform every other name that's a higher quality name. I'd prefer to own a CVX over an ExxonMobil at these levels.
It was energy today that saved the Dow from its nine-session losing streak. So what do you make of that in terms of being able to snap that losing streak, but with the leadership of a very small part of the S&P 500?
I mean, well, obviously, I'm sure we'll discuss this, if not on this show, on the great options action at 5:30 with Dan and Mike and Carter Worth. With that said, the underperformance of technology would have been our lead in a lot of shows, but for this energy. So it does concern me a wee bit. Yes, you had the breaking of the 8-day losing streak. The S&P was up, marginally. That gives me some pause. And can I play real quickly?
Sure.
What did you do on ExxonMobil?
I faded.
Yeah, I'm a denier as well. I deny it.
Deny it.
Wait, what does that mean?
Buy it or deny it.
Buy it or deny it.
So you're also fading.
No, I just said I'm denying it.
The energy complex does not have the punching power of the technology group. It can never lead this market for longer than a day or two, or maybe even stabilize it for a day or two. I think for the most part, if energy was for sale in some large way, there's no way that, if technology was for sale in some large way, there's no way that energy saves the day. So this is putting all your eggs in the wrong basket if you think energy is going to keep this rally going.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.